we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
Come along. Welcome aboard. Indiana Sports Beat coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios here on this Wednesday. Brought to you by the great folks at Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer, wherever you are. Hope you're having a good day. Dylan Sinn with me as always. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Always good to be on here with you, Jim.
Well, it's good to get to a point where I feel like you can go, oh, man, just a big exhale. It's just been the last 2 weeks have just been a whirlwind with everything that is going on. And it's like time to settle down now. Everything's not done, but we've got the Final Four set. We've got the IHSA finals set. We've got a new Indiana men's basketball coach. You've got a new Indiana women's team that made an Elite Eight run. After we get through that, we're going to have some spring football from last fall that didn't happen. We've got soccer from last fall that didn't happen. You've got baseball that's got to happen. It's just going to be just constant stuff going on, which is cool because it's better than being bored, I guess. But I could use a little rest. I'm going to be honest with you, Dylan.
Yeah, I think we all could. We've been going for months now with football and then into basketball, but no rest for the weary. You forgot opening day baseball, less than a week away.
Man, yeah, throw that in there. Yeah, it's just been, but of course, nothing can overshadow the hire of the new coach at Indiana. It is the news, and it's big news. And I think that I think it's going to work out great. I'm not going to lie, but it's not perfect. And I think that they're feeling their way through this. It's not like they know. I don't think that they know that, hey, this is just going to be boom. I think they're feeling their way through this because this is very different. They wanted Thad Matta as the coach. And when that didn't work out, they went a different direction. And they didn't get, let's just be honest about everything. They didn't get Brad Stevens. There's no secret that they went after Brad Stevens. But what do you do? I mean, you have to do that. People that ridiculed, I've seen some national media ridicule them for doing that. I'm like, that's ridiculous. If you do not swing for the fences, you're not. Yeah, that's correct. You have to do what they did. It just wasn't timing wise. There's not a lot of, other than what they did here, there's not a lot out there to make it happen. I don't think.
No, I mean, and that's the thing is, I've seen the same national media that you're talking about, kind of saying that, well, they going after Stevens shows the delusion of the fan base and blah blah blah. And that, to me, that doesn't make any sense. You give him a call and you kick the tires and you see. If he says no, you move on to the next candidate.
What if he said yes?
Exactly.
What if he said yes? My gosh.
There is literally no downside to picking up the phone and giving the man a call. It seems like it seems to me. So the fact that they did, he said no, they moved on to the next candidate. That to me is exactly how it should have gone down. It's exactly how it did go down. And they did end up getting a coach with, and I've been making this point since the hire, which is obviously it's going to be difficult for Mike Woodson to transition from the NBA game to college. However, decorated alumni with 10 years of NBA head coaching experience who took 5 different teams to the playoffs do not grow on trees. There are not a lot of people at any school who fit that description. And Indiana went out and got one of them. That is an accomplishment. And so, yes, it might not work. He might just not be able to recruit well enough or sell himself in the program well enough to this generation of kids at 63 years old. He might just not be able to relate to this generation. We have no idea if that's going to be the case. And Indiana is taking a shot on a guy who is a proven X's and O's success at the highest level of basketball. to me, I feel like that's a move that you make if you have the opportunity to do so.
Absolutely. And I think Indiana actually needed to do this also for the healing of a program. You cannot build a program back to the level that Indiana is used to sustaining without healing. There's a lot of healing. There's healing amongst former players because there's factions there. There's factions in the fans. There's just factions because of the different coaches, because of the different administrations, the multitude of mistakes that have been made along the way. All that's got to be brought together. That doesn't happen. I don't think that happens without a hire like a Mike Woodson. And who he brings in as assistants is going to be of uber importance. I'm going to tell you, I would love to see a Calbert Chaney or a Michael Lewis on this staff. Don't know if they're interested. Michael Lewis, of course, we'll talk about him. He's getting ready to play in the Final Four. Congratulations. As UCLA knocked off Michigan last night. Great games. Oh, man, those games, well, the other games sucked, but the games have been so good. But that was a great game. Battle, just a battle. I mean, there's a game the other night. It just, man, some of these games have just been, they're time capsule games. They are just battles where they're going back and forth, making plays. And UCLA, what a great story. I hate to get off topic. I just better write that down and come back to it. But yeah, the assistants. He doesn't have to go the IU way because he's an IU guy. But I think that I see this as a setup for down the road for Indiana as well, for a continuation of this, whether it's a Michael Lewis or a Calbert Chaney, that this continues with a successful linkage. But yeah, he's got Thad Matta is going to be a liaison to the Big Ten, to the college game, Dylan. You know, he would have been the head coach if he was physically able to be the head coach. So you're going to have not two head coaches, but you're going to have the minds of two head coaches. So I think that's invaluable.
And yeah, we could talk about this more as we go as well. But last night, Mike Woodson talked to Don Fisher, kind of a first interview type thing. And Don Fisher asked him that question about Thad Matta and what value he thought Thad Matta could bring. And that's exactly what he said he said, I have no ego when it comes to ideas about basketball. He said he wants as many minds around him as possible. And I thought that was the pitch perfect answer to that question because Thad Matta is going to bring plenty of ideas to this program. He does know the terrain, as you said. And I thought it was interesting. I did not realize how much of an IU guy Thad Matta is, talking about being at the game where Scott May got hurt in 1975. I didn't realize he was that much of an IU guy. And so obviously he has some passion for this program as well. He knows, maybe not as well as Mike Woodson, but he knows what makes Indiana basketball tick. And so that's just going to be an invaluable resource as a guy who has been around the college game, as you said, and who knows how to make a college program successful. And so I think it's great that when he wasn't able to be the head coach, IU went a different direction and kind of was tried to meld those two impulses.
Yeah, Thad Matta should have been the Indiana coach a long time ago. He should have been hired away from Butler, but that's a whole nother story. But yeah, there's a whole lot of coaches that should have been a coach here a long time ago. That's a whole lot of different stories. But keeping the players, very important right now. Job number one for Mike Woodson. Trace Jackson Davis, he said he's going to beg him to stay. Just kind of joking, but probably kind of not. But I saw that him talking about that he knows he can help him develop that so many things that we all talked about. That's the thing that should be highly, highly, highly embarrassing to Archie Miller. I mean, he should just be embarrassed. I saw he was in the Caribbean someplace or something. He should be gone for like months. He should be the most embarrassed man in all of sports, except for he got one over on everybody and ran away with all the money. But other than that, And while everyone's trying to be nice, oh, Archie was so great to work with, he was great, but bull crap. Everybody else is talking about, and I've been talking about for over a year. He was a jerk, and he was a jerk, and he didn't. That translates to recruiting. There's no way it doesn't. So, but now you hear those others. We just want a normal guy. Well, that says a lot, doesn't it? I mean, gee whiz, that says a lot. How do you? I don't even want to get on the fact of how this guy got hired, but anyway, that's what this program was sent in such a weird direction. It's like, whoa, get this starship back on course, man. You're headed to Mars. But I think that's exactly what they're going to do here. I think Trace Jackson Davis stays. I mean, it's a guess and speculation, but he knows a lot of people in the NBA. He's worked with a lot of guys in the NBA where Trace Jackson Davis is trying to get to. That's what he has done for a long time. And he's going to be surrounded with people that does that. I mean, Thad Matta, he's got a lot of guys that played for him that got to the NBA. So both know the different things it takes from each direction. And the same with Christian Lander from a different direction. Christian's a little earlier in their development, but needs that development. He didn't get that development last year, partly because of COVID and all. He didn't get all of that. And the other part's because of Archie Miller. So now he will have an opportunity to be developed in the proper way if he stays. Armand Franklin, another question. That's the guy. He's got an as well as Trace Jackson Davis, but he could go anywhere. Illinois, I heard Illinois is hot after him. They'd love to have him replace DeSomu. So he's ready to go. He doesn't need any. He's a ready to plug and play type player, Dylan. So he's a very popular in the transfer portal.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And so that's the thing. And it seems encouraging that Mike Woodson knows that that's his first task, is getting these guys back on board. And that was what I wondered, because it was obvious that the first task for any coach that they hired was going to be recruiting his own team, right? And he couldn't just expect, as soon as the coach was hired, that all these guys were going to leave the portal just because they had a new coach now. He's got to go convince these guys that he's the right man for the job and that he's the right man for their development. And quite frankly, I think he is for a lot of these guys, but he needs to convince them of that. And I thought it was interesting that he was so blunt about what he thought Trace Jackson Davis has to do in his development. He said he has to be able to shoot with his other hand. He has to be able to use his other hand. And I thought that was interesting. He said the obvious thing, right? Trace Jackson Davis needs to learn to use his right hand, and he needs to learn to shoot a jump shot from 15 feet. Those are obvious things, but Mike Woodson
that we've all been saying again. Why is it that it took another coach to come in when we've all been saying this? Fans say it. Everybody except for the guy that was paid $3.4 million a year wow. Okay, we got to take a break. Kyle Neddenriep's going to join us next. The state finals is upon us. Some great games coming up. Can't wait to talk about those as well. So we got that in store for you next. Plenty more after that as well. Chronic Hoosiers on today. Bob Kravitz. We got a lot coming on. Dylan's with me right now. Back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Brought to you by Andy Moore Honda right after this. Hey, we all want more, and no one gives you more for less than. Beautiful.
Hey, Jim.
Yes.
Do you want to do? You sent me something about the Don Fisher, Mike Woodson thing. Do you have a specific part you want me to find from that?
No, but just that wouldn't be till 10 o'clock. I don't know if we're even going to have time. Yeah, because we're not even going to have time.
I sent the link to Kyle about 20 minutes ago. He's supposed to.
Did you send the time?
No, I did not. I thought that's my fault.
Yeah, because
let me send him a text. Yeah. I have his phone number, so hold on.
Ask him if he's available at 9:20.
Okay.
If not, you can ask Chronic.
Let me shoot him a call real quick, see if he'll answer me.
Did you get to go to the NCAA games, Dylan?
I did not, because I actually had COVID, so I was stuck at home for while Purdue was there. So that was that.
Stinks.
I know. I didn't get to go to the Big Ten tournament either, because that was kind of that same week.
Oh,
so,
I did.
Yeah.
I did
Kyle's
get to go to that.
on.
Perfect. He is always the savior. I got to get my credentials sent off. You got Fort Wayne Blackhawk, huh?
And Leo, we got a couple teams from up my way.
Leo, what is that? 1A?
3A. They're playing Silver Creek.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they beat South Bend. Who'd they beat to get there?
And to play. We offer an
South Bend, St.
up-close
Joe.
animal encounter with elephants and giraffes, lodging that is out of this world, world-class golfing, and a premier resort experience that is waiting for you on your next visit to French Lick, West Baden.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sillersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Dylan Sinn sitting in with us, waiting for Kyle Neddenriep going to join us next. The Indiana State Finals set, man, had a week off, which was a little bit unusual, which may work out to advantage, a little rest, regain any little lingering injuries, gets fixed up. And so it's probably nice to have a little break. I would think, as Kyle Neddenriep joins us from the Indy Star, I would just, after that long of a season, Kyle, I would think that they welcomed this unusual but week break.
Yeah, state finals you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good call. I think from talking to the coaches, I don't think originally it was something they were necessarily looking forward to, but every team has a few aches and pains and guys who need to, could use the rest. So I think that's kind of worked out okay for most teams, I think. And, it kind of gives you a chance to enjoy the moment a little bit longer too, especially for these teams like Park Heritage and, teams that haven't been there before. So I think it's kind of a cool thing. I got a story coming on Park Heritage later today and, drove through downtown Rockville the other day, and they got up on the marquee. Hoosiers is playing on Thursday night, and they're all going to go watch it as a team, and then a lot of the people in the community are going to go watch it. So, that was kind of cool. A town that hasn't been there, and a consolidated school that's only 3 years old, but cool to see Rockville and Turkey Run kind of come together, and they've got a really good team. I think they're going to be definitely up against it against Fort Wayne Blackhawk Christian, who's one of the best teams in the state, regardless of class. But that was kind of fun to see, the community support like that.
I hate to lose great names of schools like that, though. I mean, those school names, should have been able to come up with some way to tie those together. I mean, I think of Rock Fight and Turkey Run. It's just, you lose those great names.
Well, yeah, and they were practicing in the Rockville. I don't know if you've ever been there, the Rocket Dome. It's an old, it's a gym from the 1930s, and it's brick and it's old school, and they've still got the Rockville Rocks blue. Their colors now are like gray and black and white, but so they actually play their games in the old Turkey Run gym, and they don't play it. So this gym, they practice there, but they don't play any games there. So it's kind of a shame. but they've kept the old school logo and the old school colors there, and it's a really neat. I haven't been in there in probably 8 to 10 years, but it's a really neat place, a cool gym. I hope they can, get back and play some games there. I think the problem is they haven't repainted the floor to the new colors, and I think some of the people in town don't want the colors to change, so it's one of those things. But it's a cool story, and they're a very good team. They're gonna, like I said, they're gonna be underdogs on Saturday, but really cool to see that they made it this far, and like I said, two communities coming together who were big rivals forever. So it's been cool to see how they've come together and done this.
Well, Kyle, as a Fort Wayne guy, I'm just curious, what do you think it's going to take for Park Heritage to pull that upset against Blackhawk?
Well, they play a style that's very, physical, slower pace, and they had, when I went to practice the other day, they had 8 guys on the floor playing the starting 5. So they're trying to kind of simulate the length and speed of Fort Wayne Blackhawk. And, but Park Heritage is not like a, little, they're not little, they're not very tall, but they're very strong. And their quarterback for their football team, Christian Johnson, is really good sophomore player for them, and he's built like a senior. I mean, you look at him and think he's a senior. He's tough, strong, physical kid. They have physical players. A lot of their kids are football players, and they've had a good history of success in football the last few years. So, they've got a strong team. They're going to have to really, totally the key to that game will be the pace of the game. They're going to have to make it a half-court game. I said if both teams are 25 points and below going into halftime, that'll definitely be in the favor of Park Heritage. And, they're good defensively. Now, I don't know, defending Blackhawks a different animal. They're so good all over the court. They can surround First with shooters, and they just make it so hard on you, even beyond what Caleb First does. So, it'll be a challenge for them, no doubt. But, yeah, I really feel like if they can keep it close in the first half, they're going to at least give themselves a chance. And you really have to avoid those vintage runs that Blackhawk goes on, and all of a sudden they're on a 9-10 point run, and you're playing from behind, and that they can't allow that to happen. Playing from behind won't benefit Park Heritage at all. It's not a come from behind type team. So that's the key. If they can stay on top of them and and keep it close and really dictate the pace, they're really talking about, this is a 32. We only have to play them once. It's a 32-minute game. It's not a 7-game series. So let's make those 32 minutes as strong as we can.
Oh, I thought we had a weather alarm going there.
I had an Amber Alert actually on my phone. Sorry about that.
Oh, no. Well, I'm surprised I didn't have it going off. The first game, Bar Reeve, very familiar to being in this game and being at that level. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I've never heard of this other team. The Coots Mustangs, I cannot believe there is a school, even the smallest some schools can be, that you just never have heard of. And I don't recall seeing that name ever. And I'm like, wow, how is that possible? But I've not seen that name before.
Yeah, Kravitz Mustangs. They're up in Porter County. I went up there earlier this year. I think it was in January, and did a story on them. They have two sets of twins in their starting lineup, which I don't know if I've ever seen that before.
Wow!
But it's a town you drive into. I've been through there before. It's kind of out in more rural Porter County, like if you're going up to East Chicago in that area. But it's kind of out in the country. Kravitz is a little town, kind of off by itself. The school's right downtown, and kind of another old school type of place. And they're a team that they attack. Their 2 guards, the Wireman twins, are they're smaller guards, about 6 foot, if that. But they really attack, play an up tempo, full court style press. They don't shoot the ball particularly well, but they want to make it an up tempo, fast paced game. I don't know that they're Bar Reeve just they're another team kind of like Blackhawk. I think they're one of the top 10 teams at least in the state. Regardless of class, this is the best team they've ever had, and that's saying a lot for Bar Reeve. But Kravitz will want to make it up tempo, but I think Bar Reeve can play that way too. So I don't know. This doesn't look like a great matchup for Kravitz necessarily, but I love the way they play because they're always on the attack. They're always kind of in your face. They're always attacking the basket. They do get in foul trouble sometimes. The Wireman twins do, so they have to look out for that. But it's a fun team to watch. And I know they're a school that has been looking forward to this forever. They made 2 semi-state appearances back in the late 90s, early 2000s, but they've never made it to this point. And it's a really good basketball community. It's kind of like Bar Reeve to the south. It's a good basketball town. They really support their team, and I'm sure they've sold out their tickets probably in the first 15 minutes. So it'll be fun to see what they can do. They're definitely the underdog, but they're I think they also feel confident with the season they've had this year.
Well, they couldn't be further apart geographically. Bar Reeve and Kravitz, if they're way up in the northeast, and Bar Reeve down in the southwest. Moving up in class, man, we get up to the 3A. Silver Creek and Mr. Kaufman and Cooper Jacoby and Leo sounds like some little bitty old town. Should be some little old school, but I have a sneaking suspicion Leo's not some little bitty old school. Obviously, and they're in the 3A title game.
No, Dylan knows. They are kind of a surprise, though. I mean, I don't know that people expected them. Hammond was kind of the team all year from the north that we were looking forward to seeing them maybe play Silver Creek in the championship game. And then South Bend St. Joe, they had a big lead on Leo in the semi-state, couldn't hold it, and all of a sudden you've got Leo here playing for the state championship, and I do think this game has potential of being really close. Silver Creek hasn't really been blowing teams out throughout the tournament. They've had a few close calls, and granted, they've had a really tough road to get here, having to get through some of the teams that they've gotten past. I covered their Guerin Catholic game in the semi-state. And, that was a close game most of the way, and they had to really battle through that one. Everybody knows Trey Kaufman, Cooper Jacoby, Brandon Northern, 3 of the best players on a team and anywhere. So they're definitely the favorite as well. But, Leo has, Blake Davison and players who can, match up somewhat inside as well. They got some good size in there. So, I think they're enjoying this run for sure. And it's another school kind of like Park Heritage and Kravitz. Getting here and being able to enjoy it for 2 weeks, I think is cool for Leo to be able to do that. And you're going up against a team that people expect you to get beat by. But I think this one has potential of being a really good game. And like I said, Silver Creek, you kind of, if you're Leo, you're probably scared to, they haven't played their best game yet, I don't think, in the tournament. And if they do, it's going to be really tough to beat them. But I'm not sure. I think, there's some areas where you can attack Silver Creek, and and I think Leo can, be able to hang in this game at the very least.
Dylan, that's one of your squads you're covering.
Yes, exactly. They you talked about the semi-state game, Kyle. It was a fantastic game. They held JR, Notre Dame commit. They held him to 0 points in the second half after he had 20 in the first half. So they're probably going to have to do the same kind of thing against Trey Kaufman, where they just find a way to shut him down, and their defense is be able to do that against some good players this year.
Unfortunately, Silver Creek's got some other weapons. See if they can step up. But then the 4A game, of course, a rematch. Lawrence North and Carmel. Lawrence North has the best player on the floor, but Carmel has been a very good team all year long. So and I'm not saying Lawrence North is not a good team, but obviously they have the best player in CJ Gunn. But that's going to be a match. Bloomington South, I thought they were going to knock Lawrence North off there for a while, but Carmel's been playing pretty solid. I think Carmel's going to win this one.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good game. I covered the first game. I don't expect it to be that much of a lopsided game as that one was, even though Brian Waddell didn't even play in that game. But then Carmel got beat the next night by Fishers. I don't, Carmel was really clicking that game, hitting the three. It was, and Lawrence North was kind of at a point where they'd come from behind in so many games and so many kind of last couple minutes they'd rally and win. They were kind of ripe for a loss, I think, at that point, and they certainly took one that night. But I don't think it'll be, I see this being, I'm also picking Carmel to win, but I think it's going to be a lot closer. And I don't, Lawrence North has a lot of heart. They've managed to win a lot of close games this year. You mentioned CJ Gunn, but they've also got a lot of other players like Shamar Avance is their leading scorer. Donovan McCulley, the football commit for IU, has been absolutely huge for Lawrence North during this tournament. He's becoming he's just one of those, blue collar, get a rebound, get a block shot, get a, scramble for a loose ball. His stats are pretty good. I think he's 7.7 points and 7 rebounds. So they can rely on DJ Hughes, of course, had, I think, 9 dunks against Plainfield in the regional championship. So they've got all kinds of, different weapons they can throw at you. So I think this will be a really good game. I think it'll be a close game. And I do like Carmel to win, but just defensively, Carmel's so good. They really make it hard for you. And there's times where Lawrence North can really struggle on offense to generate, especially in the half court. So they're going to have to make some threes. They really need CJ Gunn kind of to be on his game. And if he gets hot, then look out, because they can really score some points, get up and down, and make it tough for you too. They're also a good defensive team. I think this game will be probably in the 50s, somewhere in that range. And I think the lower the score, obviously, Carmel kind of probably benefits Carmel a little bit more. But I think it's going to be a really good game. I'm really fascinated to see kind of what that game looks like and how both teams respond to being on that stage.
Looking forward to it as well, man. I can't thank you enough. What do you have coming up? Obviously, the previews for these games that are coming up, but we just talked about. Anything else that fans need to know about from the Indy Star and you?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be there all day Saturday. Got, like I said, that Park Heritage story I'm working on today, and I think it's kind of a cool story, with the consolidation of those two schools not that long ago, really. So fun to see how they've come together. Got another story on that's already out, kind of players to watch, and another story on the Carmel Lawrence North game coming, and a little bit more on Caleb First as well. So a lot more stuff to get done, and then hopefully sit back and after the games on Saturday and wrap it up. That'd be the end of the season. And then we move on to AAU basketball.
Oh yeah, I can't wait. Oh. Man, I don't know how you do it, man, because I know I'm worn out, but I know what you do. I cannot thank you enough, Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star, brother. Make sure you give him a follow. Thank you so much.
All right. Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate it, Jim. See you, Dylan.
Thanks, Kyle.
The great Kyle Neddenriep joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat, picking up, covering the big – there's going to be some good games. I mean, I think all 4 of those games are going to be good. You got the 1A game – just because a team like Kravitz that out of nowhere, man, they're going to play their hearts out. It's same with the others. And then those last 2 games, I think they're just going to be fist fights. They're just going to be back and forth kind of games, and there's a lot of talent. Looking forward to it. We got lots more coming up here on the program. Chronic Hoosier's going to join us. Going to talk to Mr. Kravitz yet. Stay tuned. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat. We're coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda. #1 Honda dealer in Bloomington. We're back with more right after this.
Welcome to your
So I've let Chronic know. I did about 20 minutes ago. I told him 9:40. Haven't heard from him. And then Kravitz responded. He knows he's coming at 10:03.
Yep, he's good. He had a interview earlier.
Gotcha.
Oh my God, I'm so tired, Dylan. I'm so glad this stuff's over.
Chronic doesn't join. If Chronic doesn't join, do anything with that interview.
He'll join.
Okay. That's fine. Just wanted to double check.
But if not, sure, we'll.
I'll just play it from the beginning if you want me to, if I can, as long as it sounds good on my end.
Yeah, because I don't have anything picked out of it.
Yeah. Let me know if you want me. If he doesn't join, let me know. Give me about 2 minutes, and then I'll get it set up and ready to go. Does that sound all right?
Mm-hmm. Good morning, Forrest. Yeah, I hit that. No word. They just started talking. He's just having meetings with him.
Yeah.
Dylan's not allowed to have tweets. Yes, I talked about that, man. Everybody was knocking off. I'm like going, man, they're going to have a path. I said, well, I knew they weren't really going to be challenged until the Final Four. They're not even going to get – I don't know that they're going to get challenged. They may simply be the best team. Damn it, they're good.
I think that they're very good. They are very good.
Damn it, they're good.
They have not particularly had to prove it in this tournament.
No, and that's the thing. The best teams don't always win because you've got to have luck. You've got to have something not bad happen. You've got to have teams not just go on a freaking run that hit 9 shots in a row, and that stuff happens sometimes.
Well, that's what happened last night. We could talk about this more with Michigan and UCLA. Michigan was the better team last night. They were the better team all night, and they were missing their best player to boot, and they just couldn't make a shot down the stretch. They missed so many layups and so many free throws, and they shot themselves in the foot in the last 5 minutes of that game.
Man, I wanted them to make it for the Big Ten.
I know.
Sick of it.
Burgers, beer. Hey, we all want more, and no one gives you more for less than Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. And right now, Andy Moore Honda is having their first ever 0% sales event. That's right.
I got to get rid of that
0%
commercial.
APR financing on a brand new Honda from Bloomington's number one Honda dealer, Andy Moore Honda. Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, John, that's
more
another
means
thing.
More selection.
You may
more
have to
savings.
get with Will.
Well, he's
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda. Now in Bloomington.
Learn how to put music under
This segment is brought to you
verbiage.
by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Welcome back to the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda Bloomington. Dylan Sinn with me here, as always, on this beautiful Wednesday. Jim Coyle as well, waiting for Chronic to jump on. We're moving people around today. What were we just talking about in the break, Dylan?
Talking about Michigan, UCLA, and Gonzaga's run to the Final Four.
Exactly. Jennifer hit that up. Love Dylan's tweet about Gonzaga, how they've had an easy ride to the Final Four. Hope UCLA can beat them. Yeah, a lot of teams have been knocked off. I hate that. I didn't think they were really going to be challenged until they got to the Final Four. But in most years, you are. The 4 games are challenging. And this year, I guess you could say that they were to most people, just not to Gonzaga. Part of that's because they're just damn good, but partly is they've had a good draw. They haven't been challenged all year. They play in that wonky high school conference, the Hoosier Hills Conference out there, wherever they play in. Because I'll be honest with you, Michigan couldn't make it through undefeated, couldn't make it through the Big Ten undefeated. I don't think that Gonzaga could have made it through the Big Ten undefeated. Going to these Big Ten arena, well, this year it didn't matter, I guess, the travel. So there's that. In a normal year, there is no way I think they're undefeated. I'm sorry. And you're not going to – and no one is ever going to tell me it's the same. It's not. It is not the same. Indiana had to beat Michigan. How good was the Big Ten in 76? It was so good, they had to beat Michigan to win the damn national championship because the other second best team was from the Big Ten. That's how good. And this year, it's, people can talk about it, but it gets wonky sometimes, man. But I guess we got to pull for Baylor, right?
I mean, I guess, as IU guys, I think that's kind of, I think everyone in IU land is pulling for Baylor at this point, or pulling for UCLA to pull an incredibly dramatic upset here. That would be
Hoosier. That would be Hoosiers-esque.
Yes. Shades of the Elite Eight in when Adam Morrison was there with Gonzaga. But I do feel kind of weird calling UCLA of all teams a plucky underdog because, it's UCLA. They have 11 banners. But
hey, but they're doing this with Dylan. They're doing this without an NBA lottery pick.
Yes, that is true.
What's his name? I forget. It went down with an ACL injury.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
man.
mean, Johnny Juzang, who had, I believe, 25
Oh, my
points
God, how's he good as he?
Absolutely terrific transfer from Kentucky who just torched Michigan. I mean, and Michigan played pretty good defense against him. That was the other thing is he hit so many difficult shots. He is an incredibly talented player, and I think he'll absolutely be the focus of Gonzaga's game plan. But they have kind of really done this tournament run with some gum and masking tape the entire time through. So UCLA is a great story, but the question is, and they're about to run into, let's be honest here, they're going to run into a buzzsaw against Gonzaga, and it's going to be difficult for them.
How about the Pac-12 though?
Yeah.
We maligned them. They were much maligned all year. They were 7-1 before yesterday's game. So what are they now? 8-2.
Yeah, they've been terrific in this tournament. They had
with only the second number 11 seed ever. There's only the second. Is it the second or the first 4N team to get to the Final Four?
I believe it's at least it's the second or third at least, because George Mason and VCU both did it.
VCU were 11 seeds, but I didn't know if they were play-in games or not.
Yeah, UCLA is the second play-in game ever to get to the Final Four.
Yes.
And so they have, the Pac-12 had 3 teams in the Elite Eight with UCLA, USC, and Oregon State. So it's a terrific story for the Pac-12, and Bill Walton called it going into the tournament.
Bill Walton had 5 Pac-12 teams in his Final Four.
He did,
and I love it. He's like Todd can't stand him. I think he's hilarious because I understand it's a shtick.
Yes.
He's a basketball genius, because if you ever notice when he's doing all that crap, when he jumps back in, he can jump right in and just deliver an exact precision. He knows a lot of basketball. He's a smart, very intelligent guy. He has fun with people. He just toys with people because he can.
His broadcasts, I've come to believe that his broadcasts are basically a kind of performance art where he's out there just really trying to poke the play-by-play guy as much as he can. To me, I always go back to the Maui Invitational in 2015 when Indiana was there, and I think John Shambi wanted to murder that man on live TV. It was driving him insane, and Bill Walton was having so much fun with it.
I love it because I know that if Bill Walton's doing a game, I know what to expect. There's no way it's going to aggravate me. I know what's coming. Now, I don't want to watch. I'll be honest with you. I don't want Walton doing a game that if I'm having to watch it, that's a game that I really want to.
But you have a rooting interest in
that I need to watch or pay attention to. I'm not going to listen to him if I have to pay attention to the game. If I want to just be entertained, oh yeah, I'm all in. But if he's doing a Big Ten game or anything, nope, I'm going to have to find a different means. But yeah, I get it. Hit up some of these comments over here. Let's see, where was Tim says he thinks that Woody will surprise people, will develop young kids and get them ready for the NBA. I think that he's going to bring the right people in to do that personally. Sid, people worried about Woody's age. Coach K is in his 70s. They'll never say anything about his age. Everybody was jacked up about having a young guy, and that is true. You look at some of the absolute best coaches that there are. The reason there's not a lot of great coaches available, because they're old and they're coaching somewhere. They have jobs. They're not available because they're good, because they're old and they've been coaching. And I don't mean to use the word old. I mean, they're experienced. You can say old. Yeah. Well, look how many old wins they got. They got a lot of big numbers behind their old names. Look at all these old names. 900 wins, 900 wins, 900 wins. That's why you don't have a coach. They're coaching somewhere. The great ones are. But
you didn't want Indiana to go out and get Jim Boeheim, Jim?
Nah, he's but see, that's another one. Do you think he's gonna, unless he doesn't coach next year, is he gonna forget how to coach next year? Nope. They have had a run of success. That's a great example, though. That would be like all the Duke. You've got continuity. Indiana would have been that way, but it didn't end the way it needed to end. And I blame both sides for that. Absolutely, both sides for that. And it's why we are where we are today, well, that and a number of other reasons, mistake after mistake after mistake happened. But it's taken a long time to get to the actual fixing of those mistakes. I don't think that those mistakes were tried to be fixed before. It was doing it differently, always doing it differently. The anti-Bob Knight, and people think that's not just some hush-hush thing. There was not going to be a Bob Knight guy hired for a period of time by a certain administrators under a certain administrations. And getting back to that, not about just Bob Knight. I'm not saying that, but when you think of Bob Knight, you think of Indiana basketball, what Indiana basketball was, that style of play, winning, all that. That's what I'm talking about. And people that have lived that know that, sometimes that's what it takes to get back to that. And I think that's where Indiana is.
And I think that's part of the thing too, is Scott Dolson, I think, struck the right note when he said, after he went in the kind of the press conference, when he talked about why he moved on from Archie and what he expected for the future, he said, look, we have this great tradition and that's a foundation, right? It's something that we can build on, but we also need a team that is going to be on the cutting edge of where basketball is going. We don't want to play the same basketball that they were playing under Bob Knight, because that's not the way basketball is played anymore. Sorry, Bob, that's just not the way it works. And Mike Woodson, I think, he's an attempt to meld both of those impulses, right? He's a Bob Knight guy who has been on the cutting edge of basketball during his NBA career. He talked about it again with Don Fisher last night, where when he was in Atlanta.
Who wanted this job badly years ago?
Yes. But when he was in Atlanta, he talked about how he was one of the first guys in the league that started switching everything and playing positionless basketball. And he got killed for that. Now everyone does that a lot. When he was in New York, he was one of the first guys. He set all kinds of records for how many three-pointers they took, and everyone thought that was weird. And now a lot of teams are doing that. And so he's been on the cutting edge of basketball during his NBA coaching career. And again, crucially, as you said, he wanted the job. So I think he kind of fits he checks a lot of the boxes that IU wanted. He is a Bob Knight guy.
And needed.
He has connections to that tradition. Yes, he has been on the cutting edge of basketball, and he wanted the job badly. That checks a lot of boxes.
That Larry Brown thing you heard, that's not a rumor. You look back 4 years ago. This talk happened 4 years ago when he wanted the job then, and he wanted to bring Larry Brown along because he respects him as a mentor. Again, I think of Larry Brown like Rick Pitino, like Bob Knight. Those three basketball minds, just look at them from a basketball standpoint. Three of the greatest basketball minds, period. But we can go ahead and put them in the college game if you want. Two of them did both, but definitively three of the absolute greatest minds in the history of college basketball, without question. And all three of those guys could be beneficial to helping someone from the outside, i.e. a Thad Matta comes in. Indiana wanted Thad Matta as the head coach, thought he was going to be the head coach. Turned out in the end, he just wasn't healthy enough. So that surprised them. That changed. They fully expected him to be the head coach. I mean, after the meeting, that's where it was going. And then additional information was provided. And then that's when Thad pulled his name out. So, but I guess we haven't spoken since that happened, or have we?
No,
I've been vindicated, Dylan, vindicated. Have you seen that?
I have not seen it. Enlighten me about your vindication, Jim.
Well, the Thad Matta story that I broke that said that Indiana had and Matta and Indiana had spoke and had come to an agreement. They were in agreement on terms, and the information where the original tweet, the back half of that said, but because of a failed physical, he didn't get it, and that was not correct. But it was because of his physical nature that because of that, he withdrew his name from consideration of the head coach position. And of course, there was no thought of this position. I mean, who would? Because they created this, but they really wanted him, and you can understand why. But now, so they created this position, and it allows him to go this route, to go with Mike Woodson, who has been in the NBA only, which I don't know that that's that horrible of a thing. I mean, I know recruiting is a grind, but today it's not like it used to be. You used to be recruiting 3 and 4 year kids. You're not doing that half the time now. And of all guys, and half of them are wanting to get into the league, you got a league guy right there. And I bet you he brings somebody else along. I mean, I'm going to be surprised if we don't see a Calbert Chaney or a Michael Lewis. Calbert Chaney, again, would give more league ties, younger audience, or who knows, it could be somebody totally different from the league itself with no Indiana connections. No idea. But I bet you it's going to be good. I can tell you one thing, it's going to be 1,000% better than it was last year. Every player is going to have a chance to develop. Every player is going to have a chance to grow. But most importantly, every player is going to have a chance to win. Man, and they didn't get that before. But
yeah, and I think that's an important point where you talked about Thad Matta coming in. I think it's worth mentioning now that Scott Dolson said this in the press conference. He drove this point home. Mike Woodson is the head coach. This is not a head coach, associate head coach situation. Thad Matta is not on the coaching staff. He is in administration. And I think that is an important point to make, because you worry about whether if Indiana struggles early in Mike Woodson's tenure, you worry about kind of the backup quarterback effect, where people start clamoring for backup quarterbacks, the most popular guy in the room. Thad Matta might end up being the most popular guy in the room, where people are clamoring for him to be the coach. That's not going to happen. Mike Woodson is the head coach, and that is not going to change as long as Indiana wants him to be the head coach. Thad Matta is not waiting in the wings in any way, shape, or form here. I think that's important to point out.
And he cannot coach. He cannot instruct. He cannot do that. In the NCAA, the head coach and the 3 assistants. I don't think the director of player ops can they? I can't. So it's just the 3 assistants and the head coach. And that's it. Because, we talked about the shot doctor and all that stuff. Can't do that. You can't do that stuff. It doesn't matter who it is. Not even a member of your own administration, like Dylan correctly pointed out. Jesse asked, did Archie's time here hurt his future in coaching? Well, if it didn't, I think that you'd be you're a moron if you didn't see what happened here. Of course, who has that ever stopped? These guys always get jobs. He doesn't need a job. I don't know who the hell would hire him personally. There's no way I can see him getting a job at the Power 5 level. None, unless it's just a bottom feeding school that needs the attention. I think that he can succeed at the mid level because you can overachieve there. You can get guys you can implement a system and have it work against teams that are maybe not as skilled or athletic. But you can't do that at this level. You actually have to coach. You have to strategize. You have to make adjustments. He doesn't seem to know how to do any of that. I don't know that he knows how to coach. He does not know how to recognize talent, and obviously does not know how to develop talent because nobody on his programs develop under him. So, yes, I would be surprised to see him get a job at the Power 5 level, not at the mid-range level, and not in TV because he's got the personality of a corpse. So unless they give him a personality implant, I don't see that coming around either. So.
Well, and it's important to note that if he does get another job, that only helps Indiana because it's the private donor who paid for Archie's buyout.
Yes, the philanthropic donor.
Yes, exactly. The philanthropic. Oh, good Lord. Yes, that's that saves him money because the money from that would come out of the buyout. It would be deducted from the buyout, whatever that Archie's new job pays him. So that's important to note as well.
Well, and Tim's surprised that Woody only makes $3 million a year. That's $0.3 million less than Archie. I thought they would have paid him a little more than Arch. Well, Fred Glass didn't write that contract, so that's part of the reason that it's not horrible for Indiana. So there's that.
I think the other point is that it's heavily incentivized. There are a lot of incentives in that contract. If Indiana wins, Mike Woodson will be paid more than Archie was.
Yeah, and I actually have some of that stuff. But also, you have to remember they're paying a Thad Matta. They have not named the assistants. I'm going to guess these assistants are going to be making a lot more money. If you're bringing in a Calbert Cheney, he's not making Kenya Hunter money. He's not making Mike Roberts money. He's not making Tom Ostrom was probably getting paid very, very well to do whatever that is the hell he did. That's another thing. Nobody knew what I was like. What is he doing? It was the biggest 4-year joke in the history of jokes. We got to take a break. It's about time to take a break. Bob Kravitz is going to join us next. Yeah, we're getting close to that. Always looking forward to talking to Bob, man. He is a fun one. I'm sure he's got plenty to say from the Athletic. Bob Kravitz is going to join us next. Dylan Sinn's here with me now. And I'm Jim Coyle. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda. Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. We're back right after this.
Hey, we all want more, and no one gives you more for less than Andy.
Damn, I sound like I know what I'm doing.
Oh, God.
Mr. Matta, annual base salary of $400,000. Your base salary will increase each year by $25,000. Nice raise. After 4 years, that's a $100,000 raise. Fuck. The potential to earn additional bonus of 1 month's salary if the team advances. He gets bonuses too. Bonus.
What was I gonna say?
Benefits. Oh, the benefits. These guys, man, they have it so made. He gets $15,000 for moving expenses, and he lives in fucking Indianapolis. He's not going anywhere.
Okay.
Man, we're in the wrong business, brother. We cover the guys that make all the money.
Yeah.
He only gets $2,000 for Adidas products. Shit, I can blow through that in a month.
I bet he gets a lot of free Adidas products too, though.
Yeah, but that's a ridiculous allowance.
That is true.
I'm just like, what do you mean? What? Either give me stuff or don't. $2,000 allowance. The hell is that?
Give me some of that vintage stuff.
Like the vintage shoes?
Yeah. The Adidas with the cloverleaf logo rather than the more modern one.
What?
You ever seen those?
No.
The old time Adidas logo from the 80s. IU's got a bunch of that stuff on campus. I had a bunch of when I was at college. I had a bunch of Adidas merchandise. That was
you mean they sell it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. They have like the old school Adidas logo on a bunch of stuff. It's pretty cool. Like at the campus store and stuff like that. I always thought LaSalle would be a good place for art.
Ordinary destination, French Lick, West Baden, Indiana. You'll find great places to visit,
some high
to
school would be
stay,
the best
to
place
dine, and to play. We offer an up-close animal encounter with elephants and giraffes, lodging that is out of this world, world-class golfing, and a premier resort experience that is waiting for you on your next visit to French Lick, West Baden.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Jim Coyle with you here, Dylan Sinn, waiting on Bob Kravitz to join us. Send Bob. Did you send text to Bob, John?
Yes, sir. He's supposed to be joining soon.
Okay, cool. Good enough. All right, you can drop out. Cool. Sounds good. Looking forward to talking to Bob from The Athletic, as he has also been covering this NCAA tournament. Man, I've got like so many windows open. I was trying to pull up that Adidas Cloverleaf logo. That works out great for the Celtics stuff, huh?
Oh, it's great. That's the old school Adidas logo. Absolutely fantastic.
I still don't. I don't know why I don't remember that, and how you do that really bothers me.
I don't really remember it so much as they brought it back when I was in college. So
vintage, man, the vintage. It's all good stuff. Let's hear. Make sure hit up these questions. Sid, Indiana should have hired Tim Cruz when Bob left. He would be in yeah, Tim Cruz didn't do much, so you can't say that. Can't wait for Woody to have an open door to all former players. Archie screwed up there. Yeah, no, Archie didn't screw up. Archie can't do that. I mean, y'all just have to understand. Archie has no personality. That's one of the things he said he was going to do. I know of a former player that I believe that he just stopped returning his calls because he was just reaching out, and Archie was not IU. He didn't care, but Archie's not going to be any place. And I'm don't want to spend much time on Archie, but I don't care where Archie goes. He's going to be about Archie. Archie is about Archie and what Archie does, and that's hey, it worked for him. Let's see. What was that one? It's a long one. Woody can recruit if I'm a player with any Indiana aspirations at all, and I Google him and see who he's worked with recently, I'm coming to some. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. This guy is not. The kids, yeah, they're not. Who's this guy? Who's it? Well, he's been in the NBA coaching, and a lot of guys don't know the assistant coaches, but he's been around. He's been around some big time people. He knows what he's doing. These guys are big time in that.
I mean, I
Jim,
think the other thing is that they these kids follow the NBA, right? Like these kids were the recruits now were what 9, 10, 11 when Mike Woodson was coaching the Knicks and they were winning all those games with the Carmelo Anthony teams, things like that. Those kids remember that. Mike Woodson was a well-known name in the league at that point. Those kids remember those Carmelo Anthony Knicks teams and how good they were. They'll be fine. Hey, Bob, how are you?
Greetings. How are you?
Greetings from the master. Bob Kravitz joins us now from The Athletic. Sir, how are you?
I'm good. I'm sitting in my car waiting for my daughter to come out of the doctor's office. So if there's a little hustling and bustling here, you'll have to forgive me.
Well, I don't mind a bit. It's always a pleasure to have you. Plenty to talk about, of course. Indiana's got a brand new golf coach. So we've got I'm kidding, a little new basketball coach. And I guess a surprise. A lot of surprising things happened with it and kind of continue to happen with it. It's not finished yet. You got players to get back. You got assistant coaches to get hired. So still a lot of pieces to put into the puzzle.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Obviously Thad Matta joining the group, which I think is a really good move. There's talk of Larry Brown, for crying out loud, joining the coaching staff, which would be astounding. I'll be honest with you guys. The Mike Woodson hiring did not move the needle for me the way maybe it did other people. I found myself trying to talk myself into really liking it. And when you have to talk yourself into loving a move, you probably don't love it that much. But, I do like the fact they kept it in the family. I do like the fact that this is going to be a bridge to the past. The question for me is whether Woody has the appetite and the desire, the energy to go out and recruit the way he's going to need to recruit, especially this offseason when all these guys are going to become free agents, basically.
I think that also leads me to think that this is potentially a bridge to the next IU guy, whether that's Calbert Chaney or Michael Lewis or whomever that might be. And I'm not saying a 2-3 year bridge, but maybe that's somebody who comes in here as an assistant coach and down the road it goes that direction, because you're going to need someone with youth and exuberance to get out there on that recruiting trail and getting these guys homes and do all the AAU traveling and all that stuff. Calbert Chaney, Michael Lewis, those guys, they're used to that. Mike Woodson,
I think that it's absolutely incumbent upon them to bring in the Lewises and the Roberts is there, but to bring in guys who will hustle and not only recruit the hell out of Indiana, but recruit nationally. I don't care about this inside out recruiting, that Archie was all about. You just get the best players, the best kids, and we'll move from there. But I think you're right. He's 63, which is not ancient, but I say that because I'm 61. But
Julia agrees with you.
What's that? Oh, okay.
I said Julia agrees with you.
Okay, good. Well, that makes one person who agrees with me. I caught a lot of grief for that column the day that he got hired. But no, I think that this is kind of a bridge hire. Whoever they bring in as an assistant coach, I think one of those guys will probably be the next one. So it's intriguing. I'll give them that. It's very intriguing the way this whole thing has been set up.
Yeah, they really wanted Thad Matta as the head coach, as we've discussed, and things did not work out. He's just not healthy enough to handle the rigors of that. They thought they were going to be able to go in that direction, and then it changed. But now having him on staff will obviously help Mike Woodson make the transfer to the college game. He's Big Ten, obviously entrenched in the Big Ten. He knows Indiana. He lives in Indianapolis. So a huge help to Mike Woodson in that regard, and probably in selecting his assistants maybe.
Oh, I don't think there's any question. It looks to me like he's going to help coach the coaches, and specifically Mike. Look, Mike is a really sharp guy. I'm not saying he can't do it, but he doesn't have that. He's never navigated the college atmosphere. The shoe companies and the runners and this guy and that guy. It's a different template that he's got to master. And I think that Thad Matta, I think he probably did the right thing by not taking the head coaching job, or not getting it. Was probably the best thing for him personally and physically. But I think he's going to be a great help to Mike Woodson.
Yeah, I do as well. Dylan, jump in anytime, brother. Didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no problem. Bob, I was just wondering what you thought of. Yeah, obviously, what do you think of the Larry Brown news? Do you think that that's something that would be helpful as well? Just another mind in there, or do you think it's weird to bring in a guy who's 80 years old as a kind of a special assistant?
Well, Larry Brown is a basketball genius. He is an absolute savant. I would not want him around recruiting or anything like that, because he was as dirty as they come when he was coaching. So I don't want that. But to teach these kids X's and O's, can he relate to them as an 80-year-old? Probably not. But I don't know that he's going to have to. He's just got to teach basketball. And when it comes to teaching basketball, Larry Brown is as good as it gets.
Yep, I said that earlier. I mean, it's like having someone like Rick Pitino or Larry Brown. Sure. These guys, they have or Bob Knight. They're just these basketball minds are at genius level. So there's no way that having him, and he was at the college level, Larry Brown, it didn't matter. It just basketball was just basketball to him, where some guys it is a different game. And man, he's just, like you said, and I said it before, a savant, and they just see it differently. And there's no way that cannot just be immensely helpful for Mike Woodson.
Absolutely. No, I'm all for it. You remember the Golden Girls? These are going to be the Golden Boys, this coaching staff. All these older guys. But
oh my God, somebody's going to get a meme out right now.
I think I'm going to start calling him that at some point and see if he catches on. But yeah, no, Larry. I mean, it's funny. My first job out of college, out of IU, was covering the New Jersey Nets, and Larry Brown was the coach. And I learned a lot from him, man. I'll tell you what, I learned a lot about basketball from Larry Brown. He then took another job at the end of the year, and that was that because Larry's not happy unless he's unhappy. That's just the way
It's
he
funny.
is. But we'll see how long he stays in Indiana if he comes.
Tells you how long Larry's been in coaching, huh, Bob?
Oh, my God. Yeah. 60 years.
60 years. Yeah, 60 years. He's 80. Heck yeah. Hey, we got to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more here on Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by Andy Moore, right after this.
Hey, we all want more, and no one gives you more for less than Andy.
Woo! Larry Brown.
Larry freaking Brown. He's crazy as shit.
And you know that, but he tried to make this run 4 years. Was it 4 years ago? Mike Woodson did with Larry Brown.
Oh,
he wanted this job for you. Yes, it was like kind of a rumor 4 years ago that someone sent to me that he did reach out and said he would bring Larry Brown with him. That probably scared him off.
Right.
Well, and then Larry Brown was Larry Brown was at SMU at the time, and they had been barred from the NCAA tournament because of recruiting violations that happened under him, and he'd been suspended. So I understand why they were.
That's right. That was after that, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he'd never been in trouble before though.
No.
Oh God. Oh man, the NCAA is awesome. I'm assuming you get.
Right.
Yeah. They are I'm actually seeing on Twitter right now, the NCAA, I believe, is currently at the Supreme Court talking about.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Damn it.
I
How did I
believe.
forget about that? Amateurism.
Yes.
Well, that's a joke.
They're having arguments with the Supreme Court judges right now, I believe.
Please tell me they sent Mark Emmeren up. Please tell me they put him up there to talk. That would be the greatest thing in history.
Yeah. I don't know a whole hell of a lot about that whole deal. That was something I was going to look up when I got home from the doc's office here. So I don't know if you want to talk about it, that's fine.
I'm just going to mention that they're doing it, and that we'll talk about it tomorrow because we don't know what the hell's going on today. I mean, we know what they're doing, but we have no idea what to discuss about it.
But if you want to talk about Gonzaga and how freaking good they are.
Oh, we was talking about that earlier. I was like, God dang it. I was like, flip. They're just flopping good, man. Those two good. They're just flopping good. Those two big guys, daggone.
It's not a word I've ever used unless I was referring to Vlade Divac.
Brother, when you do this, you start to use a lot of different words.
Yeah.
Oh, I try to come up with them on the golf course. The golf course provides me with a lot of alternatives, I assure you.
You'll find great places to visit, to stay, to dine, and to play.
I played 6 holes
for an up-close animal encounter with elephants and giraffes. Lodging that is out of this world.
News here that Mike Woodson plans to retain
and a
Kenya
premier
Hunter.
resort experience that is waiting for you on your next visit to French Lick, West Bay.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sillersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios on this Wednesday, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Jim Coyle with you as always. Dylan Sinn sitting in, and we're joined by the incomparable Bob Kravitz from The Athletic. Bob, word just broke that Dylan told me that Kenya Hunter being retained by Mike Woodson. So there's some continuity going forward. We thought that may be a good idea because he's a very popular guy. There's a lot of teams that have been reaching out to him. And Louisville, I've heard, was wanting him. They just let 2 assistants go, but Kenya Hunter is someone that's very popular.
Yeah, that's good news, especially when you've got, 6 guys in the transfer portal?
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, at least, yes.
And five guys now plus TJ Davis.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, 5 guys now with Durham transferring to Providence. Plus Trace.
Yeah, so... You know, and he's got personal relationships with all those guys, I would assume. So that can only be a good thing. They need a little continuity with this staff for sure.
I want someone to start working on some
memes or some the Golden Boys is one, but we have another one now, and this is in the running. Grumpy old men.
Grumpy old man. I like that. I could be a member of that group. I could be a member of that group.
But the importance of that continuity, as you mentioned, Bob, a lot of relationships with these players developed here, so that's going to help with retaining some of them. And also, it just have to work out. I mean, guys like Race Thompson and Jordan Geronimo. Jordan Geronimo's mother has been active on Twitter. She wants him home. Probably not the best thing for Jordan to have out there. And I feel bad for him in that regard. But the Landers are like, you know what? Christian's probably going to involve us, but it's his decision at the end of the day. And that's what Keith Lander has said. You know, it's what he thinks is best for him. So, and I know that Christian is meeting with Mike Woodson today. He spoke with him on the phone, I think Monday, but they're actually meeting today. So he's trying to get that out of the way. I think we'll hear more about the players by the end of this week. I think they're going to make their decisions quickly, and because they don't want that to linger either. They want to move forward as well.
Well, especially with the transfer portal and people, lining up to move to other schools. I just think, to me, Lander, even though he was completely outclassed and was not ready to play this year, he's the one guy, him and Armand Franklin are the two guys that I think you really have to go after and make sure they stick around. The other guys, honestly, I mean, they weren't any good with them. I'm not sure I understand why it's so important to have some of these guys back. Geronimo showed some signs, I guess, but to me, keeping Lander and keeping Armand makes them a decent team moving forward.
And you had Trace Jackson Davis to that as well.
Well, yeah, I don't see him coming back. I'd be surprised. He's a second-round pick, but how much could he improve his stock? And I guess the question is, can they put him in a position where he's going to be shooting a little bit from the perimeter? And with this team as it's currently constructed, I don't see where they're going to have him anywhere but at the 5. I think Trace is probably going to move on, but I could be wrong. It's a total guess on my part.
Yeah.
I know. Go ahead, Dylan.
I was going to say a lot of it might depend on how good Logan Duncombe is when he comes in. If he can play the 5 a little bit, maybe you move Trace to the 4. If Trace sticks around, maybe you move him to the 4 a little bit and try him more in the high post and see how that goes.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. And we got to find out what's going on with Joey Brunk.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's the thing is the whole team is in flux right now, right? We have no idea what this team is going to look like next season, because if some of these guys do move on, then Mike Woodson is going to dive into the transfer portal himself and start looking for other guys. So the team could look almost entirely different next year.
And to that, I say hurrah.
I'm sure a lot of people would, but that's also going to be college basketball or maybe college sports, because there's 1,000 players in the portal now. This is not unique to Indiana. I think it averages like 4.5 players per team. So this is Indiana's barely above average with a coaching change. So it's college sports is just kind of wonky right now.
Free agency, man.
That's what it's all about. What do you have coming up next, Bob? I know we've got the NCAA tournament going on. Great game last night, UCLA and Michigan. Man, I was hoping for the Big Ten, but I'm not sad, obviously, for Michael Lewis getting in there with UCLA. Sure. Michael Lewis, a name. Is he somebody that they talked to this week?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think there's any doubt. I'd take a run at Fife just to see where his head's at. If he is told that you're the coach in waiting, maybe that's something he would consider. I haven't talked to Dane in a couple of weeks. I know Dane would have been interested in the IU job, and I don't believe they ever spoke with him.
I don't. I think he is the coach in waiting at Michigan State. So
probably
that would be a lateral move, and for how long? I mean, I don't, unless
Right.
he fails, I don't think Mike Woodson is planning on being gone in 3 years.
No, I
which
agree.
Izzo could be gone in 3 years.
He could be. Yeah, I mean, you're right. It would be a lateral move. But, you don't know with Izzo. He may just decide to go several more years. It's interesting. I mean, because, you're bringing in a guy who has no college experience, and he's dealing with what will be the craziest year in college basketball history in terms of the offseason. So it's going to be, I think that's where Thad Matta is going to be very, very useful.
Yeah, I just, Calbert Chaney and Michael Lewis are just two names that just, to me, leap off of to be the number one assistant for Mike Woodson, if they were interested. I think that they are the most ready. If you're looking at an IU guy, quote unquote IU guy, they would be the most ready and kind of fit the time frame. They're relevant name wise, time wise. Calvert, the all-time leading scorer. Michael's in the Final Four right now with UCLA, a big brand. So we'll see. It's all a guess. That's all a guess. But it's going to be interesting to see how they put this together.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's going to be a nuts off season. Like I say, I'd like to see them keep Lander and Franklin, but beyond those two guys, it's funny. Look, I understand what the players are doing. But they're also taking the risk that the team might not want them back too. That's a risk they run.
You've got a guy like Armand Franklin, who is a very, very wanted guy, who could, instead of risking playing on a potential NCAA team next year, go to an Illinois who wants him and get plugged into someplace. So he's someone that's dangerous. I think he comes back personally, but he's a wanted guy.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I thought that he improved until the injuries hit. I don't think that Archie Miller had a guy who improved more year over year than Armand Franklin from his freshman to sophomore year. Because I think one of the criticisms of Archie was player development or lack of same. But Armand is different. Armand really came on his sophomore year until the injuries obviously slowed him.
Part of the thing with Armand was that he just got so much bigger and stronger. And I think that's something that IU's done very well in recent years, just physical development. These guys, they come in for the summer, they work with Cliff Marshall, and they come back and they're completely different body-wise.
Yeah, and they can send all those pictures out that they like to send out with that. But one other last thing, Jack Nunge is in the transfer portal. He's been playing for Iowa, but he's from Newburgh, Indiana. Big 6'11" kid that can shoot the three. He's been kind of injury prone. I think he lost his father, wants to get back closer to home. I don't know that he's one of those. I'm not sure if he's a guy. Talking about Bob Nunge, Bob, he's in the transfer portal, but I don't know if that's something that they have a spot for or not.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I do not know who that person is.
Yeah. He's a 6'11" kid from Newburgh, Indiana, down by Evansville, that's been playing for Iowa. I think he just finished his redshirt sophomore season. But he's 6'11", can shoot from outside. Big kid.
Well, we can't have anybody who can shoot from outside playing Indiana.
Well, buddy, I'm going to let you go. I know you got busy stuff to do. What's coming up next for you with The Athletic?
Yeah, I've got a piece running this week. I'm talking to a couple of members of the 76 Hoosiers, the last team to go undefeated in college basketball, and trying to get a sense of how they view Gonzaga as Gonzaga attempts to do something that hasn't been done in 45 years. So I think that should be interesting.
Do an easier path. Absolutely. Make sure you look for that. Be a subscriber. I am. Man, I can't thank you enough, Bob. We appreciate you more than you know.
No problem, and I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. I was just waiting on my daughter here.
Never a problem, brother. You have a great day, and I
All
hope
right,
she
buddy.
does too.
All right,
Thank you
take
very
care.
much. Bob Kravitz from The Athletic joining us. Up next, Chronic Hoosier is going to join us. That's going to be in the overtime period because that's going to wrap up the radio side. Appreciate Dylan for sitting in and Kyle for coming on, and, of course, Bob Kravitz. Stick around for overtime next. If you don't follow us on YouTube, you should, because you can watch us there as well. Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Just sign up and hit notifications. It's becoming a little more pretty popular. They love seeing Dylan. They love seeing that face.
Oh, man.
But that's going to wrap it up for us on the radio side. Appreciate you guys. Thanks to everybody. Go out and do something nice for somebody. Wear your mask. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio. We clear? I guess we're clear. All right. Hey, Chronic, how's it going, brother?
It's going, man. I am so sorry it's been such a shit show here the last 2 days, but happy to be back.
Brother, who are you telling? It has been a shit show for 10 days.
Hey, I'll tell you what, I'm just glad to learn. In fact, IU was very much talking to Thad Matta. Who'd have thunk it?
Imagine that. Yep, and he didn't get the job because of his health problems. Imagine that. But he's going to be a part of it. It's funny. Somebody asked earlier if I got any apologies for that. I'm like, yeah, right. It doesn't work that way. But we've been talking about that a lot. The integration, Chronic, of a Thad Matta, someone who is not only is he Big Ten entrenched, great college coach, but the state of Indiana. He lives in Indianapolis right now. So he's already here. He coached at Butler. His wife is from Seymour. I found out yesterday from John Laskowski. He wanted the Indiana job before. They should have hired him a long time ago. We'd probably just now be going through another coaching search, or maybe 3 years ago. Would have been a great Thad Matta run probably. But here we are, and Mike Woodson's your new coach. And now Kenya Hunter's being retained, but that just came out. Looking forward to seeing who these next two assistants are going to be, Chronic. I'd sure like to see Mike Lewis or Calbert Cheney.
Yeah, this is Indiana's kind of been star-crossed for some time now. Brad Stevens is clearly has been the golden boy for some time in Indiana circles, and deservedly so. But people forget, it was very, very much commonplace to bemoan IU losing out on Thad Matta when they transitioned away from Mike Davis and ended up bringing in Kelvin Sampson. We just never quite had the timing right, and it was just salt in the wounds watching Thad make his career progression, ultimately end up at Ohio State and just go on an absolute tear over there.
Much like Chris Holtman.
Yeah, for over a decade. I mean, that's the tried and true path, and it's been worn pretty well over the years. But it's just been a very, very contentious issue for Indiana to see this talent that's been maturating in our backyards, only to lose them because we couldn't get our stuff together at the right time in order to capitalize on it. So to this day, it still blows my mind that Thad Matta is currently a Hoosier. His sister-in-law played basketball with Terry Moore, and I grew up in that gym watching her take that team to a Final Four in the state championship. And it's the world's second largest high school gym, first, depending on what the count is, win. And you got to realize, man, in the 80s to watch girls fill the gym up, it was just something I've never seen in my life. Not like that. So his roots go really, really deep in here, just all over the Midwest for that matter. One of the most respected minds in the game in the last quarter century. And then, you throw in the news, Woj drops the bomb that we're talking to Larry Brown. And it just, again, I can't wrap my mind around it because it's just incomprehensible that, Indiana comes out of a coaching search that results in a lot of raised eyebrows, a lot of questions. It certainly wasn't the splashiest of hire that I think a lot of folks were expecting. And before you can even fully process it, Now all of a sudden we're just going around gobbling up the greatest minds in college basketball right now. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, Larry Brown's a guy that's lost pretty much all his college jobs for recruiting violations. But, Woj says it's going to be in a non-recruiting role, just in an advisory position. But nevertheless, it has been an absolute whirlwind here the last 4 days, effectively, as Indiana has put Woody in place, and as he's starting to assemble a staff now.
Yeah, the one thing that comes to mind is just do it differently. That was the recipe for IU football. Well, I don't think it was intentional, but it was an unintentional do it differently because the traditional guys could not turn Indiana football around. It didn't matter if it was Sam White. It didn't matter who DiNardo. It didn't matter who it was. They just couldn't do it. It was not possible. So you bring in a guy who just never been a head coach, who doesn't know anything about being a head coach in college, and you pay him the 63rd worst salary in coaching, and he turns the damn program around like it's never been done before ever. You do it differently. And I think that's kind of what this is done. It's different. It's a different means of doing something. And you know what? The traditional means has not worked for Indiana. They never, like you said, a lot of it's been timing and bad decisions, those two things. But they're doing it a little bit differently, and I think it will end up working out and getting back to where they need to be.
Indiana spent the last 2+ decades running away from the ghost of Bob Knight. And every time we found ourselves in a coaching search, there's always been this division among the fans, among the alumni, about whether or not we need to bring a Knight guy in. And, for the better part of that period, it was always Steve Alford's name. Steve was the one who should have had the job. Steve was the guy who should have gotten an interview. IU messed up because they didn't talk to Steve. And they fought that. They resisted that. They would try to piecemeal it. You had Calvert on staff briefly. They brought Mike Woodson back. Not Mike Woodson. I'm sorry. They brought Mike Roberts back. Excuse me. But it still never really satisfied that end of the fan base, of the family. And they fully embraced that with this hire. You hear Woody talking about bringing all the old guys back. Talking to Dockich on his show earlier this week, reaching out to all the former players and just letting them know, this is going to be a family again. And he is fully intent on bringing all the family back together, which, at this point, you talk about things we haven't done. It's been a long time since you've seen the entire IU basketball family feel fully welcomed back in the gym. And I know every coach has made an effort to try to do it. But probably because of the way in which we got to those points, the family never felt fully welcome back. And, you saw just the outpouring of emotion when they brought Bob Knight back into Assembly Hall. Not coincidentally, when you look at that very moment, standing at center court, you had Quinn Buckner on Knight's right arm, and you had Woodson on his left. Family's back, man, and I'm excited to see a lot of those familiar faces that have been, kind of absent from the hall for far too long. Woody is good friends with Quinn. He's good friends with Scott May. Scott lives just 3-4 blocks away from my house, yet you almost never see him at Assembly Hall. And part of that's just he's a low-key kind of guy. Part of it is that, he's loyal to his coach. And a lot of those guys felt disenfranchised for a long time. So bringing that back can never hurt. Now, at the end of the day, bringing the conversation full circle, you talk about the unlikely path they took with Tom Allen. Ultimately, Tom Allen's success at Indiana has been almost entirely the result of his ability to attract, to motivate, and connect with young kids. And ultimately, I don't care what the job is, making connections, nurturing connections, developing those connections are everything in every facet of the professional life. So ultimately, when it comes down to whether or not Woody's going to work here, there's no doubt the guy can coach. I mean, he spent, again, almost a quarter century in the NBA as a coach, another decade plus as a player. He knows basketball. There's only so many humans on earth that can say they coach in the NBA. Even fewer still can say they've coached in the NBA playoffs. Even far fewer still that can say they did it with multiple teams, not to mention the Atlanta Hawks and the New York Knicks. No doubt the guy can coach. I mean, absolutely a basketball mind. Ultimately, though, it's going to come down to can he make connection with teenagers and young 20-something-year-old men.
Yeah, and bringing Larry Brown along, if that happens, I know that some people, Forrest said that he personally wouldn't want him anywhere around the program, and I get that. He's not going to be in a recruiting role, so and he's 80. He's probably just going to be sitting in a wheelchair, giving some of that great basketball mind and knowledge that he can to Mike Woodson, because, man, they're like I talked about earlier, there are just three brains that just jump out. His, Patino's, and Knight's. Those are three of the greatest minds in the game. So yeah, you draw any of that you can get. I know he's probably spent some time with Coach Knight since he's been back. But it's Indiana is different than, say, you look at Kentucky. Kentucky doesn't have coaches that it's not their tradition, but they're not a team that's built on Kentucky players, or they're not a, what I would call, Indiana's built from the inside out, always has been. The foundation of Indiana has been Indiana. And so it's different in that regard. And that's why it matters. That's why I think that bringing the family back together will ultimately make this program back to what it used to be. And it has to have that foundation. I think this program needs that foundation to survive and be successful. They have not had it for 2 decades, and that's why the success has not been there.
Yeah, there's been a lot of things that just haven't quite clicked with the program for some time. We've had brief periods where it felt right and it felt good again, but they were too short-lived and they weren't sustainable. They weren't durable. Talking about what went wrong with Archie, looking back at what has failed, what's worked over the past. It's going to be imperative that he establish a foundation early on that he can build upon. We've seen in prior moves where you get the right pieces in and then they're gone, and it creates a vacuum that never quite gets filled. And, obviously right now the emphasis is on the Trace Jackson Davis, on Armand Franklin, getting the guys that he wants, the guys that want to be back at Indiana, to come back to Indiana. You've got to have something. I'm looking at Race Thompson in that same conversation as well. You've got to have players that can pass on these lessons, that give you more coaches on the floor when you bring new guys into the system, just to help emphasize the message and communicate to them what we're trying to do here, and just get them up to speed faster. But ultimately you're going to have to find the right fits. You're going to have to find the right players. You're going to have to get guys that fit in your culture, that fit in your system, that share the vision of what you're trying to build at Indiana. And, I think the fascinating thing about Woodson is, obviously with his pro chops, that's going to be his message to these guys, is I'm going to be able to develop you, get you the skill set that you need to make the leap to the next level, to go play professional basketball. And just an absolute boatload of credibility when it comes to that particular message. But as we're all aware in the college game, it takes far, far more than just one guy doing that. So compiling the staff early on, getting that core group together is just going to amplify the effectiveness of that messaging and that outreach. And I suspect that's something that they're very active in right now. As you mentioned before I jumped on, with the transfer portal being what it is, we're fast approaching a quarter of all Division I basketball players now in the transfer portal. So it's a great opportunity to build a team, to onboard a bunch of new bodies, and hopefully have some remaining pieces that you can move forward with.
Yep, and looking forward to, we got the high school finals this weekend, man. A lot of excitement there. You've got CJ Gunn, an IU recruit that is playing in the 4A state championship game against Todd Leary's son, Will Leary, in Carmel. So we got connections there. And speaking of connections, a minute ago when you mentioned the Seymour connection with Terry Moore and his wife was there, and John Leskowski's wife is from there. But the connections, that's what I was talking about. The fabric of Indiana, the Indiana basketball program had just been severed. I shouldn't say severed, but it had been torn pretty badly and was hanging by threads. And it's got to be repaired. And it's not just the Bob Knight guys. It's the Crean guys. It's the Sampson guys. And now the Archie guys, I guess. And that's the thing.
through all of those, Bob Knight, all of those teams passed down to the freshmen. Everybody learned. Everybody learned. I don't think there's been a lot of learning about Indiana basketball or being a college athlete or whatever it takes over the last couple of years for these guys. Unfortunately, I don't think that they've gotten the education that they should have gotten while being at Indiana. And I don't mean academic education.
No, that's certainly been a huge component that's missing, and that's certainly one of Indiana's greatest assets, one of its strongest attributes that's just never been fully realized. Because when the family's fractured like it has been, it was a pretty deep division among the alumni, among the former basketball players after Coach Knight was let go, and that never really fully healed. They made a lot, like I said, they made a lot of attempts, and it's not to say that guys weren't receptive to it. It just was never fully publicly embraced, as far and few between that they would come together publicly. They had their golf outings annually. They had a lot of things behind the scenes, but there was just as many things happening up in Indianapolis where the Knight guys would meet in private. We'd occasionally get a glimpse. They'd show a picture from a diner or in somebody's living room where they were getting together. Bringing that back out in the open, bringing that back into the gym, into Cook Hall, and letting those guys know what it means, that even though they're separated by, considerable distance or at least time, as far as the different generations that are all a part of that, they've all gone through the same thing. And I think Mike did a really good job articulating that in his press conferences and his interviews since, what it means to be a kid from Indianapolis, to have an opportunity to put that jersey on, what it means to have that brotherhood with those guys that go along that journey with you, and how that really shapes you for life. Because that was one element that's really been lost from Indiana. Once you graduated from that program, you were a made man. I mean, you were made. You were going to go get a pharmaceutical job if you didn't end up playing professionally. You were going to get taken care of. You were going to have connections for life. And as you listen to Woodson name check people that are certain names that I think a lot of folks that aren't intimately familiar with Indiana weren't familiar with, there were a lot of folks up there that he attributed to the success he was able to have in life. And a lot of those names had nothing to do with basketball per se, but were very much a part of the Indiana basketball experience and setting him up to be the man that he was and opening up the doors and the opportunities that he enjoyed along his way to get to this point. Bringing that back, I think, matters just as much as having those faces in the gym and in Cook Hall, because quite honestly, that was part of the Indiana basketball experience. It wasn't just a 4-year thing, it was a lifetime thing. And the more voices you can have that come and reiterate that message and share their stories, the more you can make those connections for the younger guys and help them fully appreciate just what it means to play basketball at Indiana and how that can impact your life far beyond your years here on campus.
Now we have to wait to see who's coming back. Tony says he thinks Hunter was a big reason Parker Stewart came to IU. Yeah, I think that the relationship there after his father passed, so that could be important to that. You've got Trace Jackson Davis. Many people have said that Brunk and Woodson meeting went well. I don't know, if Joey Brunk's going to play college basketball, he's going to play here. He's not going anywhere else. I don't see him leaving to go anywhere personally. Let's see. Trace Jackson Davis, look at development. Yeah, that's the one thing. I think, and Mike Woodson said this, he wants Trace Jackson Davis, of course, to stay for obvious reasons, but he talked about the development that he needs, and it's true. He doesn't have a shot. He doesn't, and he can't go offhanded. And the fact that wasn't worked on in those 2 years is two things. It's a slap. It shows Archie's lack of development, but it shows that I think he needs to do that. But hey, he's got to make his decisions on what's best for him. And I get that because we all know that you get better training at the level above. So it's going to be interesting to see what Trace Jackson Davis does, because if he leaves, they're going to have to hit the transfer portal themselves, I think.
No, absolutely. There's no doubt. Absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't bring in some more length. Even if Trace does choose to stay, I mean, they need depth at that position. They need depth at the 4 spot. They honestly need to build depth all across the floor, quite frankly. There is just a litany of needs for this team going forward. There's a lot of pieces that are currently on campus right now that would certainly go a long way in getting them that depth, obviously, and keeping that together. But I think if you're Mike Woodson, the message you have for Trace, there's no guarantee as a late second rounder, if that's, what your prospects are looking like. There's certainly going to be a whole lot less exposure if that in fact is your fate and you end up in the G League or even overseas for that matter. So, he's a guy that has the experience, that has the firsthand knowledge, what it takes to make that jump. And he can communicate to him as well how his system's going to do that, not just from an individual standpoint, but how his system is going to make him better suited for that next level. Because quite frankly, the system that he was coming out of in the last 2 years wasn't necessarily it. That's not the type of basketball that he can expect to be playing going forward. And I don't know that it necessarily showcased his talents in the best light. So you want to talk about starting to space the floor, playing inside out a little bit more. That only has to be music to his ears, as well as Anthony Leals and some of the other guys in the roster for that matter.
Absolutely. Anything coming up with Chronic? I know that you guys, you and Zach do the Banner podcast. I know it's been hit and miss with that because of the timing.
Yeah, we were able to get together and do an emergency pod, kind of an instant reaction thing on Sunday as this was breaking. And, it's wild too. I was able to get some early wind on that, and before it was released, and it was fascinating that throughout this entire process, with the exception of the information you had, with the exception of Jake Query, I assume he probably heard directly from Calvert that he had interviewed for it. There was very, very little coming out about the process, and as luck had it, one of Woody's family members. Is family members with a friend of mine, and before he publicly accepted the job, he had reached out and let some of his family know he was coming back to Indiana. He was going to take the Indiana job, and he was absolutely ecstatic and elated to come home because people forget this is Mike's home. These are his people. His family's still here. His roots are still here. And he had kept his circle tight throughout this, but he just reached out to let him know. And through those family circles, it was made known to me Sunday morning that we're going to have a new coach that day. And it kind of caught everybody by surprise. And, within a couple of hours, it was being confirmed at the national level. So that one was kind of hastily put together. Zach's still covering the tournament right now for the Indy Star up in Indianapolis, so he's been absolutely scrambling. But I suspect we're going to get together here in the coming days, and now that we've had some time to digest and process all the information, it's been like drinking from a fire hose here recently, and I suspect it's going to stay that way for some time with all the decisions that are probably going to be made public here real soon. And then, as we've talked about with the transfer portal, the hits are going to keep coming. It's a two-way street. I wouldn't be surprised if we lose some for good. But I think Indiana fans need to take a deep breath, take it all with some salt. Let's see what the roster looks like, as we head into the summer session. And then, for a lot of people that are kind of hesitant with the hire, with the moves, like I've been telling everybody, we've seen a lot of guys that came in and won the press conference, said all the right things. We all bought the T-shirts and we got on board. And then, we were left a little hurt when it was all said and done. So I'm really excited to watch the journey here. I'm really excited for the ride. And I'm really excited to revisit these very conversations we're having right now, probably this time next March, probably in March subsequent to that, because ultimately that's going to be what determines success or failure with this move. And it's a big move. It's a risky move, but it's got a huge upside if Mike can get the sauce just right. And, with any luck, it could be the move that changes Indiana Stars, hopefully for good, after 2 years kind of lost in the woods trying to figure out their way.
Yeah, I reached out to a former Indiana coach, Mike Davis, and he had nothing but great things to say. He said it's a great hire that Mike will have Indiana back in the Final Four, which I thought was a great quote coming from him. I'm like that because of all the crap he takes. At the end of the day, man, he just got put into a situation, Mike Davis, and he's a super great guy. But I love that comment that he'll have him back to the Final Four because he's the last guy to get him there. But I do believe that. I do believe that this is the beginning of a lot of things for Indiana, most of them good. I think this is the way back. Whether this is the guy that's going to get them to a national championship, I don't know that, but I think that this is the path back to relevance, path back to being competitive year in, year out in the Big Ten, because in the state of Indiana, that should never not be the case. There's too much talent here every year. There's too much coaching talent here every year. And you look at all these teams like Loyola, Porter Moser, and all these names you had popping up. If those guys are so popular, well, guys like Mike Woodson has got twice the coaching experience as they do. So I'm fine with it. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good thing all the way around.
Yeah, and I'm more than anything too. I'm obviously I am who I am. I'm pulling for this team. I'm pulling for this program. This is my alma mater. This is my home as well. I would love nothing more than for the national writers to have to eat some crow when this is all said and done as well, because Lord knows Indiana's taken its lumps here throughout the process up until that point. The one thing that highlights, though, there's never a sure thing. Archie was supposed to be a home run, grand slam, higher generational coach. It is what it is, and it just didn't work out. A lot of folks had similar comments at each step along the way, whether it was Kelvin, whether it was Crean. Time will tell. But at the end of the day, Indiana's tried everything else. So perhaps it's time they take the bold move and try something they've never done. And let's see if that doesn't hopefully result in a different outcome for Indiana.
Absolutely, man. Anything you have coming up folks need to know about?
Well, I got a dog back at the vet for the entire day. I got a boy in a boot. We're going to go see a foot specialist today. Got a vacation on the calendar here in just a couple of weeks. So, of course, my son has to find his way into a cast for the third consecutive vacation in a row.
What's a vacation? What is this vacation you speak of?
Man, I'm going to go get as far away from people as possible. I'm going to go sit on a beach, put a cold drink in my hand. This is actually, we're looking forward to this one. This is going to be the first time since my brother's marriages where we've all got our families together. And, at each one of those points, my brothers hadn't had a family yet. So I got nieces and nephews, my brothers and their wives. We're all going to go get we got a beach house down in Cape San Blas, Florida, the Forgotten Coast, which is a perfect pandemic vacation spot because there ain't nobody down there. So we're just going to go veg out, go spend some quality family time, going to gorge on some seafood and, kind of put the chaos of pandemic life behind us here for a little bit. Best yet, too, everybody in that crew is going to be vaccinated, save for the kids. So, finally get a chance where we can go venture out. Along those lines, too, man, I get to go to my childhood home for the first time since Christmas 2019 here this weekend. Everybody's heading back to the farm to go celebrate Easter. Going to be the first time we've been indoors at my mom and dad's house and my childhood house since this whole thing started. So I'm just over the moon that, it seems like forever ago that this all started, but, in less than 13 months, I get to go home again, man. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Sounds like a Hoosier holiday, man.
I'm looking forward to it.
Man, I'm looking forward to having you on each week, brother. Appreciate it. Couldn't thank you enough. Can't thank you enough.
Thanks for having me back, man. Again, sorry it took so long to get back on here, but appreciate you making it work. Have a great day, John.
Appreciate you, brother. Chronic Hoosier joining us here on this Wednesday. That's going to pretty much wrap it up. Hey, appreciate you guys. Share out the YouTube. Sign up. We just need to trying to get to 1,000 subscribers for that. So we're trying to get that locked down so we can keep moving forward to that. But thank you guys so much for everything you do, man. We appreciate y'all. Without you all, there is no show. Trying to think what today's Wednesday, so I don't think there's anything going on today. Tomorrow we got some more press conferences with football. It's just nonstop. There's soccer going on. You got baseball going on. Hopefully we can get back to some of that coverage. The women are just getting back from their Elite 8 run. You've got the NCAA tournament Final Four set. We've got the IHSA state championship this weekend set. It's nuts. But it's fun. Whoo, boys and girls, I need a vacation, man. And I'm going to hopefully take one next month or something. But I can't thank you guys enough. Y'all make it so much fun. Appreciate all the comments, especially all those on YouTube. Go to Indiana Sports Beat Radio on YouTube and sign up and share it out. Like I said, somebody come up with a way. I just ordered or in the process of ordering a bunch of new visors. These were extraordinarily popular. Adidas, black and gray, and then the black ball caps. I'm going to get a bunch of those in and figure out how to give those out with some contests. So somebody think of a great idea, but we need to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So a contest for that would be great. But man, that's going to wrap it up. Let me know anything you guys need, want to hear, any guests that you'd like to get on that we haven't had on for a while. Send that in or whatever. Always pay attention to everything. But thanks you guys and have a great day. Go out, do something nice for somebody. Wear your mask. And until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.